Nick Aldis, the man who has stood as SmackDown's general manager with unwavering strength. The professional who has handled chaos, controversy, and championship dreams with an iron fist. That man just broke down in tears. And folks, when a man like Nick Aldis cries, you know something catastrophic has happened. The WWE Universe is in absolute mourning right now, and if you haven't heard this news yet, you need to sit down. You need to prepare yourself, because what we're about to reveal is not what anyone expected. This isn't clickbait. This isn't rumor. This is real, this is raw, and this is devastating. I'm warning you right now, before we go any further, hit that like button if you are a real WWE fan who stands with the superstars through thick and thin. Because today, we stand together in solidarity. Hello viewers, if you're new here, please don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button for daily updates on WWE Raw. The shocking revelation. Just hours ago, Nick Aldis posted something on social media that sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling community. And I'm not talking about a standard corporate statement. I'm not talking about some pre-approved WWE public relations message. No, this was personal. This was emotional. This was a man stripped of his general manager persona, standing before us as a human being in pain. The post started simply enough, but within seconds you could feel the weight of every word. Aldis wrote about loss, about grief, about the fragility of life that we often forget when we're caught up in the spectacle of sports entertainment. But here's where it gets controversial, and I need you to pay close attention because this is where the WWE Universe is split right down the middle. Some fans are saying that Aldis is being genuine, that he's showing real emotion in a real moment. But others are furious. They're saying this is exploitation. They're saying this is using tragedy for engagement. They're saying that WWE has gone too far this time. And you know what? I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. Is Nick Aldis being genuine or is this crossing a line? Because the debate is raging across social media and your voice matters. Now, before we reveal exactly what Aldis announced, let me paint you a picture of who this man really is. Because to understand the magnitude of this moment, you need to understand Nick Aldis the person, not just the character you see on Friday Night SmackDown. Nick Aldis isn't just some corporate suit who shows up to read lines off a script. This man has lived professional wrestling. Born Nicholas Harry Aldis in Norfolk, England, this man has traveled the world, sacrificed his body, and dedicated his entire life to this industry. Before he ever stepped foot in a WWE ring, Aldis was already a 10-time NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. 10 times! Do you understand what that means? That title, the same championship worn by legends like Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and Harley Race, Aldis carried that legacy on his shoulders for 1,043 days in his longest reign. That's nearly 3 years of defending that championship against all comers, representing professional wrestling on a global stage when many people had written off the NWA as a relic of the past. But here's what the WWE Universe might not know. Behind the championship reigns, behind the authority figure persona, Nick Aldis is a family man. He's a father, he's a husband. He's someone who understands that there are things bigger than championships, bigger than main events, bigger than WrestleMania moments. And that's what makes this announcement so devastating. Because when a man who has stared down Roman Reigns, who has stood toe-to-toe with the bloodline, who has managed personalities like Logan Paul and LA Knight, when that man shows vulnerability, when that man sheds tears, you know it's something that cuts deeper than anything scripted television could ever produce. The heartbreaking details. According to sources close to the situation and based on Aldis's own emotional statement, the WWE community has lost someone. Not a superstar, not a legend whose name is plastered across highlight reels and championship retrospectives, but someone who worked behind the scenes, someone whose name you might not know but whose impact was felt every single time you watched SmackDown. And here's where I need to address the elephant in the room, because I know some of you are already typing angry comments. Yes, this person wasn't a household name. Yes, this person wasn't a main eventer. But let me ask you something. Does that make their life less valuable? Does that mean their contribution to the show you love doesn't matter? Does that mean their family is grieving any less? Because here's what's making people angry, and rightfully so. In the age of social media, we've become desensitized to loss. We scroll past tragedy. We treat real human suffering like content to be consumed between entertainment clips. And when someone like Nick Aldis tries to honor a fallen colleague, tries to remind us that real people with real families work behind the scenes to create the magic we see on television, people attack him for it. That's not just wrong, that's disgusting. The person who passed was part of the SmackDown production team. someone who arrived at arenas hours before fans filed in, someone who worked through technical difficulties, equipment failures, and the chaos of live television. Someone who made sure that when you sat down to watch SmackDown every Friday night, everything looked perfect. But their name won't be in the Hall of Fame. Their contributions won't be highlighted in documentary packages. They won't get a 10-bell salute in the middle of the ring. And that's what Nick Aldis was crying about. Not just the loss of a colleague, but the realization that so many people who make WWE possible will never get the recognition they deserve until it's too late. The WWE response. Now, let's talk about how WWE has responded to this tragedy, because this is where things get even more controversial. WWE released a brief statement offering condolences to the family. Standard corporate language, thoughts and prayers, the usual. And you know what? The fans are not happy about it. Social media exploded with criticism. Fans are demanding that WWE do more. They're calling for a tribute segment on SmackDown. They're asking why this person's name hasn't been mentioned on television. They're questioning whether WWE truly values the people who work behind the scenes, or if they're just disposable cogs in a billion-dollar machine. And here's where it gets interesting, because some WWE insiders are saying that there are plans for a tribute, that SmackDown this week will acknowledge this loss, but others are saying that WWE is hesitant because they don't want to be seen as exploiting tragedy for ratings. Can you believe that? WWE is worried about exploitation when Nick Aldis, one of their own authority figures, is begging the world to remember that real people are behind this production? Let me read you some of the responses from fans, because this is what has the WWE Universe divided. One fan wrote, "Nick Aldis is showing more humanity than WWE has shown in years. This is why we need real people in positions of power, not corporate robots." Another wrote, "This is manipulation. Using someone's death for social media engagement is disgusting, and Aldis should be ashamed." And then there's this one, "WWE will dedicate 30 minutes to a celebrity guest host, but can't spare 60 seconds for someone who actually made the show possible. That tells you everything you need to know. See the division? See how this one announcement has torn the fan base apart? And honestly, that division is part of a larger problem in wrestling today." Let's zoom out for a second and talk about what this really represents. Professional wrestling has always had a complicated relationship with real-life tragedy. From Owen Hart to Eddie Guerrero, from Chris Benoit to the countless performers who died too young, WWE has struggled with how to acknowledge loss while still being a form of entertainment. But here's what's different now. We're in 2025. Social media has changed everything about how we process grief and tragedy. When someone passes away, it's not just family and close friends who mourn anymore. It's millions of people online, many of whom never knew the person, all expressing their feelings simultaneously. And WWE is caught in the middle of this. How do you honor someone's memory without seeming exploitative? How do you continue producing entertainment when real tragedy strikes? How do you balance the show must go on mentality with genuine human empathy? These are questions that WWE has wrestled with for decades, but they've never had clear answers. And now Nick Aldis, in his role as SmackDown General Manager, has forced this conversation to the forefront. Whether intentionally or not, his emotional post has made the WWE Universe confront an uncomfortable truth. We love this business, but we often forget about the real people who make it possible. Think about it. When you watch SmackDown every Friday night, how often do you think about the camera operators, the sound engineers, the lighting technicians, the production assistants who are running cables and checking equipment while you're focused on whether Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns will come out on top? Never, right? And that's not your fault. That's how entertainment is supposed to work. The magic is supposed to be invisible. But when someone from that invisible workforce passes away, suddenly we're forced to acknowledge that these people exist, that they have families, that they have dreams and struggles and contributions that matter. And some people don't want to acknowledge that. Some people want to keep the illusion intact. They want wrestling to be just wrestling, entertainment to be just entertainment, without the messy reality of human mortality getting in the way. To really understand why Nick Aldis is the one making this statement, we need to talk about his journey to WWE. This wasn't a guy who was handed an authority figure role because he looked good in a suit. This was a man who earned his way to this position through decades of hard work in an industry that chewed up and spit out countless others. After his legendary NWA run, Aldis became a free agent in 2023, and the wrestling world waited to see where he'd land. Would he go to AEW? Would he return to the independent scene? Would he retire? Instead, WWE came calling, and they didn't offer him a wrestling contract. They offered him something potentially more valuable, a position of authority on one of their flagship shows. As SmackDown General Manager, Aldis has had to navigate storylines involving some of the biggest egos in the business. He's had to deal with the Bloodline saga. He's had to manage LA Knight's explosive rise. He's had to stand across from Logan Paul and maintain his composure. But managing personalities is one thing. Managing grief, managing tragedy, that's something no amount of wrestling experience prepares you for. And yet here he is, standing in the gap, using his platform to make sure someone who worked behind the scenes isn't forgotten. You have to respect that. Even if you disagree with how he did it, you have to respect the intention. Now, let's get back to what's happening right now across social media, because this story is evolving by the minute. WWE fans are organizing, they're creating hashtags, they're demanding that Friday Night SmackDown dedicate a segment to this fallen crew member.
They're tagging WWE executives, they're tagging wrestlers, they're making noise in a way that's impossible to ignore. And you know what? Some of the WWE superstars are responding. Multiple SmackDown roster members have shared Nick Aldis' posts with their own tributes. They're adding their voices to the chorus, confirming that yes, this person mattered. Yes, this loss is real. Yes, we should all take a moment to acknowledge it. But here's where the controversy deepens. Some wrestlers are being criticized for their tributes. Fans are accusing them of performative mourning, of jumping on a trending topic for engagement, of pretending to care about someone they probably never interacted with. Is that fair? Probably not. But it speaks to the cynicism that has infected wrestling fandom in the social media age. Everything is suspect, every emotion is questioned, every tribute is analyzed for authenticity. And honestly, that cynicism is exhausting. Can't we just accept that when someone dies, the people who worked alongside them are genuinely sad? Do we really need to interrogate every social media post for hidden motives? But I'll let you decide. Drop a comment and let me know. Are these tributes genuine, or is this all just social media theater? Looking ahead to Friday Night SmackDown, the question everyone is asking is,